Yo!
This was good.
Yes.
One of the best 2v2s that we've had.
Yeah, one of the best 2v2s. These guys, they got plenty of experience in the creator world. And yeah, we had a blast. What did we talk about?
How much is the gut feeling impacting your strategy? I love that section because I tend to go to with my gut feeling a ton. What about you?
Yeah, I love the outreach stories that they share with us about how they got in the HubSpot podcast network.
I know.
And how they leverage cold email, cold outreach, just in general throughout their life, just to find opportunities.
Yeah.
And I think that's extremely important for any creator, any business owner.
100%. I love we talked about the true role of data, kind of following up on that gut feeling and how they're actually investing $30,000 in an ad without ever running an ads before. So I love their thought process on how to tackle that.
Yeah, the guys were awesome. It was a lot of fun. So make sure you listen all the way to the end. And if you enjoyed the conversation, make sure you guys go and connect with James and Mario and you listen to their podcast, Parents Making Profits, on the HubSpot Podcast Network. All right, guys, enjoy.
You were like, let's do a podcast. And we're like, well, how's it going to make money? Because I'm like, if it ain't making money, like, look, we're way too grown and way too sexy to be out here playing around. If it ain't making money, it ain't making sense.
If we know that we need to be worked on ourselves, why don't we hold our products and our ideas to the same accountability? We almost feel like we can't release something unless it's perfect, but yet we know we're not perfect and we can work on ourselves.
We've got some.
Hey, I'm Luis.
And this is Luis.
Welcome to the Content is Profit podcast.
In here, you're going to get the insights, accountability, and drive to create consistently and increase your revenue.
Ooh, you'll hear from top entrepreneurs, creators, and anything and everything you need to know about content. All this while having a good time.
The goal of this podcast is simple: to entertain, educate, and turn your content into profit. Let's go. Dude,
that was good.
I don't know why it is so difficult for me to pronounce that word.
Entertain.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
It's okay.
I'm going to have to practice.
We're going to brand it that way, and then that way, that's the right way to say it.
Practice makes improvements.
Fonzie, what are we talking about today?
Today, guys, we're talking... It's going to be I feel like it could be a potentially wide conversation here, but we're going to try to nail it down into succeeding with media, parentpreneurs, and the HubSpot Creators Program.
Oh, that sounds good. Hashtag juicy. Guys, if you're enjoying these episodes, don't forget to follow the show in your favorite podcasting platform. We are everywhere. And if you find a place where we're not in, just send me a DM and we'll publish there as well. Also, follow us on social media at BizBrosCo.
That is right, guys. And if today's guests help you move one step closer towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode and leave an honest review. Thank you.
Let's go. It's Monday. And today we have our first ever guest from the HubSpot Creators Program family. And yes, you heard that right. Guests, plural, 2 of them, 2v2 time.
Oh yeah, today's guests are part of the HubSpot Podcast Network with their show, Parents Making Profits, in which they had the shark himself, Damon John, as their first guest. That was pretty impressive.
Impressive indeed. They are also founders, public speakers, Emmy Award winners, and of course, parentpreneurs themselves. Fonzie, I think you need to get yourself a kiss so you don't feel left out.
I'm pretty good. Thank you, guys. Please welcome co-host of the Parents Making Profits podcast, James and Mario.
What up?
That's good.
What up?
Let's go. How are you guys doing today?
Great, man.
Fantastic.
Oh man, but I mean, I think we can, this again, like I mentioned in the intro, this conversation can go anywhere. We can potentially talk for hours. We already shared with you guys if you guys wanted to do a 24-hour marathon, but you guys are busy guys. So for those that don't know who you guys are, why don't we start with individually, one by one, kind of like Spark Notes. Who are you? And then how do you guys connect it?
Go ahead, Mario.
Spark Notes. All right. Is there any Spark Notes?
So my name's Mario Armstrong. I'm a content creator, entrepreneur, husband, and dad to my son, Christopher, our son, Christopher. And we have our own independent production company called Never Settle Productions. And we have a separate company called Mario Armstrong Media. We have 4 employees, 2 additional contractual people in our company. And we do content that's basically around entrepreneurs and creators. My whole ethos is called Never Settle. The theme, the branding is Never Settle Productions, Never Settle Show. And we really help entrepreneurs figure out their way to build their business, grow their personal brand, access to brand sponsorship dollars and revenue so that they can build their companies. But it's all about focusing on entrepreneurs and content creators to helping them grow. And we've won a couple of Emmys for the work that we've done independently as well.
Amazing.
Perfect Spark Notes. We're gonna give you an A+ right there.
Cool.
James.
How am I supposed to follow that?
Never go second.
Yeah, right. Lesson learned.
Good lesson.
So I'm James Oliver Jr. I'm co-founder of the world's cutest twins, Zoe and Thaddeus. By the way, Mario, I need to add that to our intro when you pass it over to me. Co-founder of the world's cutest twins, Zoe and Thaddeus. I'm also a tech entrepreneur. I'm founder and CEO of the Parentpreneur Foundation, where we empower Black parentpreneurs so they can leave a legacy for their beautiful Black children. And in the process of launching a new tech startup, it's called Kabila, which is a co-founder matching application. Think Bumble for tech co-founders. We have a great community that we're building to help tech founders be better founders and better humans. Also a published author. The book, The More You Hustle, The Luckier You Get. You can be a successful parentpreneur. And I'm actually about to start writing a new book. So just that.
Nice.
So awesome. Looks like you guys are plenty busy, man. Like, this is amazing. I love it.
All I'm hearing is we need to step it up.
I know. It's like, what's happening, dude? We lazy, Fonzie. We lazy. No, but I'm super honored, obviously, to have you guys here. We connected, obviously, with the program. So I want to invite everybody, if they want to find out more about you, go to your show, right? Parentpreneurs is amazing. Just like search it in any
Parents Making Profits.
Parents Making Profits.
This guy.
I'm the one fact checking. I couldn't find it on my cheat sheet. Anyways, but go find them in your favorite platform, because I was hooked from episode 1. There's a couple there, like the 11-minute call. That was amazing. And how to find the sponsor. That's amazing too. So go find them, learn a little bit more about it. But I think Fonzie has very specific questions for today's episode.
Well,
Nice.
First of all, like, how did you guys meet? Because I one of the first things I noticed, especially when we did that call that we met each other, is like, you guys seem to be very different in a way, right? James, right, like more on the tech side. I feel like you are a little bit more on the operations, like founding these companies. And then Mario, although you do founded your own company as well, you look more like the spokesperson, right? I mean, I've seen your videos. You're on stage, right? High energy.
He's a Today Show contributor. He's on the Today Show.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that, right? Being on the Today Show. So I'm curious, how did you two meet, right? I mean, they say kind of like opposites attract. So maybe there was some sort of truth to that in the business world.
I can tell that story. So this was back in 2013. I was living in Wisconsin, from New York originally. And I just completed a tech startup accelerator called Generator, went through their Winter Madison cohort. And my startup was called WeMontage, and it was the world's only website that lets you turn your digital images into removable photo wallpaper. And somebody emailed me and say, hey, NPR is doing this day in the life of a Black tech entrepreneur. Because, we were like unicorns back then. There weren't a lot of us then. There's still, by comparison, not a lot of us now. So I saw the message. I pinged them right away to tell them my story, to see if they would include me in the program. And then I saw Mario was curating the tweets. And I didn't know Mario at the time. And I was like, well, dang, let me reach out to Mario, because he was all over Twitter. Like Instagram is his jam now, but Twitter back then was his jam. And I'm like, let me see if I could tweet at Mario, and maybe he might notice me. maybe he might like what I'm doing at WeMontage, and then maybe he might put WeMontage on the Today Show. And I reached out to him. He got back. He loved it. He did get WeMontage on the Today Show a couple times. He wrote the foreword to my book. Like, he's a great friend. He's a remarkable human. I am thankful that God connected us, and I'm happy to be working on this podcast with him. I like to say that he is Mario is a super nice guy. You maybe heard me saying this on the podcast. He is a really nice guy, and I'm just nice enough. So he is the desired taste, right? And I am the acquired taste. So that's us. Batman and Robin. Good cop, bad cop.
I love it. Now, Mario, what's the true story?
Yeah. Everything he said was false, except no, everything was right. Everything was spot on. I mean, that's exactly how it worked. And it's one of those things where you kindred spirits find each other, and it was because of the cold outreach, which James is really, really good at. That's something that a lot of people can learn from, is like how he reaches out to people coldly. And we just clicked. And it was because we both had similar dreams and ambitions. We both shared a similar experience. And when you have those nuances that you kind of can blend with each other, you're finding your tribe, you're finding your people. As humans, you know, we like to congregate or connect to people that are at least similar to us in some way.
Absolutely.
Doesn't mean that we should only be seeking out people that we're similar to, but it just means that naturally we like to connect with people. We're a social species in that sense. Yeah. And he reached out, and I love what he was doing, and it was killer. I mean, the fact that he had this product that was actually out, that was I mean, I have it in my living room on the living room wall. It's a removable wallpaper that is basically made up of the collages of images that you selected. So you select all your images that you want.
That's awesome.
You pick the size that you want for your space, and you put this wallpaper up. And I tell you right now, every time someone comes into my house, first thing they look at on the living room wall is like, they just look at all these, they're like, damn. Yeah. And I have no nails, no frames, none of that nonsense going on. And
super
it was just
clean,
a beautiful, clean, pristine product that just was gorgeous. So.
That's so cool.
Yeah, the product was brilliant, but you know, it just never caught on. Like, and we raised just enough money to fail, which is a whole other conversation if you want to talk about that. But you know, Mario, I agree with what you're saying, man. Like, we're similar, but we're still very different, which is why I think the podcast, doing the podcast with you is great, because we don't always agree.
No, we don't. In fact, I'm curious as to how we're still friends. I don't get it. Like, I found out just the other day, this guy doesn't like hip hop, and I'm like, why am I doing a podcast with him? Like, what are we talking? You don't like hip hop? Like,
absolutely uninspiring.
I found this,
and I'm a former DJ. I can't even understand that.
Oh, you're offended for sure. I
don't even want to ask him, does he watch the NBA playoffs? Like, that's what I'm into right now, and he probably doesn't watch the NBA. Yeah,
I stopped watching NBA basketball a long time ago. I was into college because I went to grad school at UNC, right? So I was big college basketball. But yeah, I stopped watching NBA hoops like early 2000s.
We're gonna recruit you for the soccer side of things, man. You know, maybe we get a chance in there.
I don't like that either. So,
Gee, I don't know what.
Hey, he came here today to make enemies. He's like, I'm waking up and choosing violence, my friends. No friends.
And this is why the podcast works, because when you have two differing opinions and coming from two different perspectives, if you can find that middle ground so that you don't, beat each other up. If you can find that middle ground, it ends up really, I think, creating a nice conversation because there is that automatic like tension where we don't see everything eye to eye. I mean, when we're even talking about guests, we're like, I don't know, like, and then I got to try to convince him. He's got to try to convince me. It's like, it's never same church, same pew situation going on.
The creative tension is brilliant, though. I mean, I told him, I feel like when we have that creative tension, we always end up with a much better product.
Absolutely. Actually, that was one of the most robust piece of feedback that we've received on the show. Because, we mentioned it. We had the producer review the show, and they're like, you guys have to like create more tension in here. And we're like, well, we like everything. Like, it's so hard. Like, we actually agree with everything. And but we've been putting a little bit more of attention into that. And the latest episodes, that's really good. I'm very curious. Right? A lot of people ask us, like, how do us as brothers like work together or publish this together or do this thing, right? What was the conversation for you guys to start a podcast? Right, a lot of the people that listen to the show are starting their own platforms, whether that's solo or they're trying to find like a co-host, and they're working through the structure of that, the logistics of that, right? Like, who's the right person? And you guys just share a ton of amazing value in like how that relationship started. But like, why the podcast? Like, is there a mission behind it? Like, is this like a passion project? Like, what is it? What's the intent behind the show? And what do you recommend people like in that state?
Before you answer that, Mario.
No, I want you to go first.
No. Well, after we answer that question, I got a better question for you to ask Mario. Mario's in business. You guys are brothers on the podcast. Mario's in business with his wife.
Oh boy,
Ask him about that.
He's like, please don't ask me about that.
Oh yeah, he's like, no, stay away. Yeah, stay away from that one.
No, that's remarkable. They operate at a high level together.
Incredible.
It's remarkable. So, but what was the question again? Like, how do we end up working together in the podcast? Is that the question?
Yeah,
Well,
like
do we have a platform? Do we have an agenda? Like, do we have a plan? Like, why do this, and how did it kind of come about? I think part of what we're looking for here is like, how can we help other people that may be in that same situation,
Absolutely.
thinking about launching a podcast and coming together? I would say really quickly, the first thing is being true to you. Like, don't try to create something that doesn't feel good and natural to you. Doesn't mean it can't be something you can work towards, but it has to be something you can be consistent with, because the biggest thing about podcasting and it really content creation overall, you can't get to content as profit or if you're not doing it consistently. So that means you better be really into it, or you better have some kind of topic or content that you can do for long term, or with someone that makes you constantly curious. And so I would say number one is really just doing more self-assessment on yourself, doing that self-assessment to figure out what's out there that you're not hearing that you would love to do, or what's out there that you're listening to that you think you can bring a different perspective to. And so I think that's kind of where we started. We were both, look, I've been in content creation. James hasn't really been in that space. To a lesser degree, he's done it with his membership communities and things of that nature, but to a broad degree, he hasn't really done like that type of focus. He's been in different.
I think that's your cue, James.
James, Mario's mic got disconnected.
James remotely disconnected the mic. He's like, let me talk.
I think your podcast is doing it. I don't know what's going on. Like mine just went out. Now his is going out. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'll pick it up. So, but I think Mario, we can't hear you, Mario. Like he'll pop in a second here, but let me pick it up. But you can see by virtue of the way he was answering that question, like why, I'm so thankful to have him as a host on the podcast, because, Mario is like, he's always on me. He's like, yo, we got to make sure we get right to the point, right out the blocks. We got to be delivering value right away. So it's always about, putting the listeners at the front, because look, we're all busy. Like I got ADHD really bad. I'm not going to sit there and listen to a bunch of nonsense. Like what is in it for me? So right up the top, like we get right into it and delivering value and key takeaways for people. That's super, super important for us. And, I will say like, one of the reasons we also connected is because, we're different, but we're also very authentic. And when you show up as yourself, right? If you have a really important value proposition, like what is your why? At the top, Mario talked about his why. A common thread through everything that I do is helping parents who are entrepreneurs. So that's really important to me. And like he said, it's highly differentiated. There's mostly nothing else out there like that.
Yeah.
And the two of us coming together with these different, unique perspectives, I think makes for a really great, a great show.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think, like in summary, know who you are. 2, make sure that it's something that you can do consistently. 3, does it connect to a stronger theme within your business and your marketing and your personal brand? So Parentpreneur Foundation is what James founded. It's spot on brand for him.
Absolutely.
Parents Making Profits isn't necessarily spot on brand for me, but it is in that I'm talking to entrepreneurs that I want to never settle.
And you're a parent yourself.
And it's a fit from that perspective, but that's not, I don't actively seek out parents. You're actively seeking out parents. I'm actively seeking out creators and entrepreneurs.
Many of whom are parents, by the way.
And
you got prime example right here. This dude
right here.
Yeah.
2 kiddos.
Welcome, baby. Welcome to the No Sleep Gang, baby.
Oh man, Fonzie just brought me like more coffee. Like that's the second one. I'm curious, like how long was it from ideation to actually first episode out? Right, a lot of people find friction into that. Like a little bit of background for us. Like we tried to publish our first show called Brews and Bros. Thank God that didn't happen because we were drinking beer in every episode.
Yeah,
we will be alcoholic by now. But there was like a lot of friction, right, in the production side. There's a few elements in there that didn't allow us to publish, right? It took us a year to then, and a very big event in our business where we almost kaput, we were almost game over, to inspire us to actually push the show forward, right? So how long for you guys, since that idea, we're like, hey, we should do this together, right, to execution, how was that process for you guys?
4 weeks.
Awesome.
I mean,
it was like that, James. I mean, here, the thing is, the thing is, we were in other spaces where naturally the dialogue would work well. So he would jump into my clubhouse rooms and, we could riff. And
I jumped in those clubhouse rooms, bro, because I felt sorry for you. It's hard as hell to try to hold. I mean, look, first of all, you're a master at it. You're a pro. But I know how hard it is to hold that space by yourself. Yeah. And I was just like, let me just hop in and just give my hand sometimes, because I just know it's hard. You're you're a pro at it. You're great at it, but I know it's hard to do. So I was just like, let me hop in there and help my bro out, man.
I didn't even realize you were trying to actually be nice to me and help. That's great, man.
That's what it was, man. I was just trying to help out a little bit.
We would be in those spaces, and whenever we would communicate on the phone or talk, it was like we could easily riff. So we knew we had this ability to kind of like riff on things. And then it was a couple of things started happening where I was constantly like, I even think I said to James a few times, like, dude, we should be thinking about a podcast, or you should be thinking about a podcast.
So you're like,
and he was like, man, I don't have time for that. I ain't got time for no podcast.
You were like, let's do a podcast. And we're like, well, how's it going to make money? Because I'm like, if it ain't making money, like, look, we're way too grown and way too sexy to be out here playing around. If it ain't making money, it ain't making sense. You know what I mean?
True. And so we actually had a couple of other places that were interested in doing some stuff with us. And that kind of jump started us getting serious about wanting to put a podcast together. Some other networks had reached out, but their contracts were janky. Everything they were doing wasn't really like solid. And thankfully, I've been from this business and I kind of can see like red flags all over some stuff. And I was like, this isn't going to work out. We should go a different way. And then we kind of just like let it rest. And then the next thing I know, I think James had sent a cold email to HubSpot or saw something. And then the HubSpot thing kind of like turned on. He can give a little bit of background on that. But again, cold email that went out. And within about 2 weeks, I think we had to give him a demo.
It was super fast.
It was super fast.
Yeah. I saw some article somewhere, maybe LinkedIn, about the HubSpot program from last year. And I was like, Mario, this is interesting. We should reach out. And I sent an email to somebody on the article. They didn't get back. And then I saw the CMO's name in the article. I was like, why am I even emailing this person? Because we have this rule we talk about in the podcast. Like, we have a no minion rule. we only talk to the bosses, man, because the minions will waste your time. We go right to the top. We don't waste time with people who can't make decisions. So I sent an email to the CMO, a cold email to the chief marketing officer of HubSpot, right? He didn't get back at first, which is normal. Yeah. I sent a follow-up email. We talk about this in the episode. And when I sent the follow-up email, if you do that, like, try to send an update. Don't just be like, hey, did you see my email or not?
That's never good.
Right? Don't do that.
It's got to be an update. It's got to be something new that's in it for them.
Yeah.
Yes. So we sent a little follow-up note thingy, and he got back and he copied the people who were over the program, who copied somebody else who was under them, who copied someone under them, and then bam, and we already had a pilot episode done because we were like, look, we're going to do this. We're going to need to have something in the can, because people are going to want to hear something. So we had one recorded. It wasn't edited, and then when they got back to us on like a Friday, they were like, we need something. Send us a clip. So we sent a clip. They're like, this is great. It's Friday. And they were like, send us a whole episode and we're going to listen to it this weekend and make a decision by Monday. Right?
Yeah.
So Mario's like, holy crap. Mario.
Take action.
Mario edited that thing down, man.
Put some music on it.
Yo, it was Friday. We didn't even have a name of the podcast. He was like, welcome to the podcast. That was right.
That was so good.
But Sunday night at 11 o'clock, we got an email from them. We're like, yo, this is amazing. We love you guys. We want you in the program. So we literally swooped in at the 11th hour because of a cold email to the CMO of HubSpot and got into this.
Didn't even have a name.
Dude, I love this. Did you guys went to like randomnamegenerator.com and then like posted in there?
I literally was like, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to the podcast.
Dude, that's awesome. This is a great story. First, is the second time that you guys have brought up the cold email. So, James, in just a little bit, we're going to have to, share some tips in here because, like you mentioned, just outreach, cold email, just trying to get in contact with the right people can present you with so many opportunities, whether that is, sales, partnerships, whatever it is, right? And I find it extremely exciting, I guess, your story, because the way we connected with HubSpot was, in a way, a little bit similar, right?
Oh, tell us.
We actually we love sending cold videos, right? Just like random
Oh, that's
videos.
Mario's jam right there, baby.
Yeah, we're like, hey, or plays like, hey, I'm Luis, and this is my brother Luis, and they're like, wait, two brothers with the same name. Yeah. So that immediately causes an impression, but then we actually had applied previously. We didn't hear anything, and then we just kept, we looked, okay, who's in charge of the program? No Minions rule. We didn't have a name for it, but now we're gonna
Minions down.
Yeah.
Don't
Don't worry, we're gonna attribute it every single time we use it. But we started, okay, who is in charge of this program, right? And we noticed that Steph was part of, one of the big bosses in there in the program, running the program. So we started reaching out to her. We discovered who was one of the main producers. We sent them a message as well. We pretty much hit everybody, but our strategy was, and this is kind of like why we build Content is Profit on the platform, is to build stronger relationships. Like the value of your net worth is determined by the value of your network, right? And for us, it was like, dude, we want to have cool people to connect with them and then explore if there's any other opportunities. So we actually invited 3 of them to our podcast
the same week.
So we had one on Monday, one on Wednesday, and one on Friday. And the last one that came in, he was like, oh, guys, by the way, congrats on getting in the program. And we were like, wait,
what?
Yeah, like,
What program?
what,
And then
what,
he goes,
what just happened?
What are we
Yeah.
talking about now?
It's like, don't say anything. I don't think I was supposed to say anything. I was like, well,
You're like,
It's
dude,
all right now.
we haven't even started the episode, and now we're like all hyped up, right?
Yes. So good.
And
man.
that night,
But you guys shot your shot though, right?
yeah, exactly.
See, that's the thing Mario and I talk about all the time. Like people, everybody out there listening, you have got to shoot
yes.
your shot. And so there's 2 things I've noticed over the years. Some people won't shoot their shot because they're too scared. So it needs a shift in mindset. And the other reason is because they simply don't know how. So Mario and I, actually, we talked about this in one of our episodes, Mario, about how to get in the right frame of mind. Here's some things that you can do, some tips, some tactics to do to shoot your shot, but you got to shoot your shot. And so kudos to you guys for doing that. That's amazing.
To you too. I mean, is that gut feeling, right? Like how much is this? How much gut feeling is what you guys have implemented in your professional lives, whether that's on startups, whether that's on the podcast, right? Like, do you feel there's an element of that? Because personally, I don't know, Fonzie, but for me, there's a lot that goes into the gut feeling. It's like that little voice that tells you, hey, you guys got to do this. When we launched Content is Profit, it was in the middle of the pandemic. We lost 80% of our sales. We're like, I think this is the thing that we got to do, right? And there was no clear path, and we just did, right? So how much of that, right, have you guys utilized to move your project forward? Not just the show, but everything, right? Like with your production and the content, or with your startups?
I'm going through it right now. We got $20,000 that we're doing on an ad spend for our other business, which is selling a course, teaching content creators and entrepreneurs how to get brand sponsorship money. And we've allocated 20 to 25,000 on marketing. We spent 3,000 so far in a budget. We've gotten about 300 and some leads from that. And from those leads, I'm looking at them and I'm not happy with what I'm seeing in terms of the quality of the leads that we're getting. So right now we're going off of, okay, we got some facts. We have some data that's coming to us, but a lot of what I'm looking at in the DMs, I'm looking at who's following these ads. I'm replying to people on the ads in the comments. I'm not just like throwing an ad out there and not being visible. I'm actually in it, talking to people, and I'm starting to look at their profiles and really dig deeper than what an ad can tell me. And I'm realizing, like, yeah, a lot of these people are not like the exact people. So then what do? I got to operate off the gut. I'm operating off of instinct. Well, what are we going to do next, Mario? I don't know, but we ain't going to continue to spend this money and do this. I know that much. We're going to stop that bleeding and try to figure out how we're going to readjust. So I would say for me, it's about 80% instinct and gut and about 20% reliance on data. Data to me really just kind of makes you understand more about what you probably already know in your gut. And so when you have the data that matches the gut, then you're really in your sweet spot. Like if you're feeling a certain way and the data is telling you that's the way to go, then you know you're like really golden. But waiting on the data to tell you what your gut should be thinking, that I don't like, and I don't think people respect enough of their intuition and their internal wisdom to give them a little bit of guidance. Everyone's looking for answers from something else, and most of the time the answer is within ourselves.
Oh, that's Zen right there. So Mario, so what happens, because I'm assuming this happens every once in a while, when the data is contrary to your gut, then what do you do?
When the data is contrary to your gut, then then you have to have a serious question about where that gut is coming from. And I think this is a really good point you bring up, because is your gut
that's what I do.
driven,
I bring up good points, baby.
is your gut being driven by ego? See, if you're okay with being wrong, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll recognize that the data is telling you something that you didn't see, but you got to be willing to be wrong, and you got to be willing to be open. If you are closed-minded, or if you only see certain things a certain way, or if you're allowing your pride or your ego to kind of dictate your moves, then you can't see it, and you won't find out until the pain is too deep. And then once the pain hits you, then you're willing to listen or make an adjustment. And that by that time, you've already gone through a lot of suffering. So I think it's through meditation, through having clarity, and through understanding that not one person knows all the answers. And I think when you can have that kind of openness, you allow other inputs to come in and come through that filter. But if you don't have that filter, if your filter's not clean, then your ego's all in the way, man. You need to, you got to change the filters in your house at least twice a year. So you need to at least be changing your damn ego filter. Get that thing out of there at least once a month.
Yeah. So how does that, I feel like a lot of this intuition has been, forged in a way by your experience. I mean, you said you've been in the space for years, right? I mean, both of you growing businesses, starting businesses, and then as a creator. So I'm guessing a lot of it has to do with experience gained. How does somebody that might not have that experience rely on their gut and know, whether, oh, cool, I probably should follow this, or maybe should they just tune into somebody else's gut, right? Be like, okay, what is this person saying? Should I just follow what they're doing? What is a good plan of action in there for somebody, maybe a few levels below?
Good, Mario.
Oh man, all right. I was hoping you were gonna go first.
I saw James shaking his head.
Go ahead.
Absolutely not.
I'm about to jump in the deep end on this one.
Should not be paying attention what anybody else is doing. Right? You gotta figure out. Listen, Mark Twain said the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you figure out why. So go figure out that last part. Right? Go figure out why you're here. And, for me, it's totally different now than it was just a few years ago. I mean, I started, just like you guys, your business went down in the pandemic. I started the Parentpreneur Foundation in the middle of the pandemic. I had a job. I got fired right before when COVID started. My kids weren't vaccinated. I was virtual schooling my children. My daughter has really bad ADHD. It was undiagnosed at the time. I was having a really hard time doing that and starting a foundation without any previous foundation experience. But the reason I was able to get that done, I don't know if you heard the last episode that we did when we talked about what investors are thinking before they write you a check. One of the people who talked there was Brad Fell. Brad Fell is OG venture capitalist, co-founder of Techstars, super great human, really rich, very successful. But we were talking about, for him, what he cares about is, he doesn't want to know what you're passionate about. He wants to know what your purpose is. Like, what are you obsessed about? And he's going to invest in people who are obsessed. And the reason he's doing that is because, when you start something new, things get hard. Right. And we talked about this, Mario, in the last episode. Sometimes, you put the dog food down. That's your idea. In front of the dog, and the dog won't eat the food. Right. So if the dog doesn't eat the food, you either got to go make some new dog food or you got to go find a different dog to serve it to. Right. Yeah,
if your product is dog food and no dogs aren't eating it, you got a problem.
So,
or
but
you
if
got
you
the
don't
wrong
have
dog.
that internal compass, that internal fire, like Mario said it when he talked before, and that's why I was passing to you to start, Mario. But meditation is a good way. Like for me, I just wake up every morning and go to bed. Like, all right, God, tell me what to do today, and send me some people to help get it done. And for me, what that looks like is, I go ride my bike regularly, clear my head, keep my thinking clean. I get inspired. And when I get that little unction, that inspiration, I'm like, all right, bam, that's my answer. And I just go do that. And I don't hesitate. I don't look back. I don't think twice. And those things work out great for me. That's just me, though.
It's good.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned something that I want to make sure that people also don't get confused by, because it's easy when you start doing that when you do the comparison in the social comparison game, and you're like, okay, but Mario, your starting line is different than my starting line. Like,
oh, child, please.
You've been doing this
excuses.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? I didn't know anything of what I was doing when I was doing it. Here's the thing. I just told you I have allocated $20,000 to $25,000 in an ad spend for this other revenue generating product of ours. And I have not done ads. I don't know that space. I don't know what I'm doing. I know what I'm looking at. Yep. I know the team I'm relying on, but I mean, full transparency, I'm looking at the team and I'm like, you guys aren't really doing a good job of convincing me. So I think we're going to put everything on pause right now because we need to reassess everything. And that's not being an idiot or being mean. I'm a really, really nice guy. I mean it. I really am a nice guy.
I mean, James says so. James says so at the beginning.
I'm going to say I'm a nice guy, right? But at the end of the day, it's our business is money that we have to spend as wisely as possible. And so I want to make sure that people aren't under this assumption of, well, you figured certain things out. Yes. After not knowing anything, we figured certain things out. Yeah. This will be a new one that I'm figuring out in real time with you right now. Next week, I'll have a different answer for you than I have right now. So my point is, you have to just go. The idea that we need to wait for something to be perfect does not exist. We all are fine knowing that as humans, we're flawed. And we all I have no problem asking a room full of people, do you feel like there's something that you could work on within yourself to be better? Absolutely. Whole stadium. There might be one Kanye in the building. It's like, nah, I'm a god. I'm a god. It's done. Yeah, I am perfect. But other than that, it's like everybody's hands go up, right? So if we know that we need to be worked on ourselves, why don't we hold our products and our ideas to the same accountability? We almost feel like we can't release something unless it's perfect, but yet we know we're not perfect and we can work on ourselves. So the point of all of that is to say, you have to go with what you know at that time. There is no room for waiting. There is no room for regret. Regret happens if you don't go. Or regret happens if you waited too long to go. And so if you know that you want to get, for example, in the podcast space, make a damn demo. Stop talking about making it. Stop telling me what equipment you're going to go buy and all this other stuff. You're waiting for the right pop filter. You got to wait for you have the right money for the microphone. Can you just get with your people and actually record something so somebody can hear something?
Yep, absolutely. I think that the best actionable advice right there is just go do it, right? I mean, we were talking about Shoe Dog, Phil and I right there. Just do it, right? At the end of the day. I think what you just explained also reflects a lot of the creative process, right? A lot of people, when they want to create content of some sort, and we just use the podcast as an example, they just get stuck in, oh, what am I going to say? How am I going to say it? How am I going to create it, right? And they make it this massive thing that it becomes overwhelming. And I know this because that was me 100%, ultra perfectionist.
Guys, I will be so frustrated because like my gut feeling, like I follow it, right? It's like, okay, we'll do this. And Fonzie has called me out many ways because there's like, bro, you've executed on like 10 steps and you like, we did not talk about this. And I'm like, okay, maybe I need to slow down maybe a little bit. What's the compromise for us as partners, as business partners, right? Which is a whole different conversation. But also there was a stage where Fonzie just consumed content 24/7, and it was very frustrated to me as it was very frustrated to him that I was just going out and executing, right? So it took a bunch of conversations to find that balance. I'm like, okay, what is the commitment, right? And I think that's something that's very important too on doing this. So I don't know.
I mean, for reference, the first podcast, Brews and Bros, that we tried to do, we had 3 different cameras, DSLRs, that they have like a 20-minute limit, so most of them. So we will be recording, and halfway through the recording, it's like, okay, you keep talking, I gotta go and turn it on again. So and then we had different audio inputs. The outputs weren't going through the cameras. So imagine the editing process of that thing, right? It was so freaking overwhelming. And we were recording all that in a 2-bedroom apartment in my bedroom.
We call it porn set.
We call it porn set. When my girlfriend would come in, she'll be like, "What are you guys doing?" I'm like, "It's a podcast, baby. I promise, it's a podcast." Brutal. And we recorded 5 episodes, and guess how many of those 5 we actually post-produced? 0, none.
Not even one.
Not even one. Because as soon as I sat and I had all those files in front of me, I was like, dang, this is a lot,
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, right.
Lord have
And
mercy.
when we started Content is Profit, the first thing we said is like, how do we make this thing frictionless? So we just go and do it. Guess what? We had a phone, we had live Facebook,
That's
and
it.
we had ourselves, right? So we just started talking. And then eventually after episode 20, we're like, cool, what else are we going to say? What about we bring some cool people into the podcast, right? And now we are on episode 282. Actually, it's like 300 and something published. But it's because of that. We removed the friction and then it evolved after time. Now there's more steps. We do a little bit more, but we have more of the capacity and the resources to do so. And it all started because we just decided to take that first step. And I think it's pretty valuable, right? It's so simple. We've mentioned it before. It is simple, but it's not easy, right? And the consistency part of it is a challenge because people can start it and then a week later they're like, okay, cool, it didn't work, right? I didn't see the results that I wanted. So what would you share? What would you tell people about that consistency, right? How do you? I'm guessing it goes hand in hand with Mark Twain and finding your why, finding your purpose, right? To stay consistent. But what have you found throughout your journey together, right? To stay consistent in the things that you guys are doing.
It's like, I mean, because this content is kind of natural for us. Look, we don't, we're not super organized when it comes to what we're going to talk about. We're like, what are we going to talk about this week, Mario? But last time I was like, all right, I got some ideas. We're going to put some stuff up in the mural board and let's just have like a bunch of topics that we want to do coming up. But it's just, I feel like anytime we get on the phone and start talking about whatever, it's like a podcast episode.
Yeah.
No, seriously, we start talking and be like, all right, save that. Because that's just how we roll. So
yeah, for us, it's kind of,
but
for us, I guess it's a little bit, it is a little natural, but it's natural because we know, like you said, we know the lane that we're in.
Yeah.
And we're constantly already looking for stories and we're paying attention to things in our communities.
And you're
so
executing, right? On a day in, day out basis.
right. Plus we're doing it, right?
You guys are doing
and we're actually doing it. We're not like podcasters talking about it. We're actually like living
Yeah.
these businesses and living these things that we're building.
Mhm.
And so not only are we active practitioners, we're also curators.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of really helps. But I do want structure because I just know, like, for right now, and he's hearing this for the first time. This is how transparent we get. Like, it's about to hit fatigue for me to come up with topics, because this is why I like recording in batches. And
No, I agree. I agree with you, bro.
I like leaving some time, but life has happened on
Yeah.
both ends, mostly on my
Totally.
end, that's really not enabled us to record
you
in
did
some
your
batches.
TEDx talk, right? So you were busy with your TEDx talk.
Yeah, I mean, I was out of pocket and for a
Yeah.
couple of different things. And so, but the fact that we can share a Google Doc, the fact that we can quickly communicate, like, hey, what about these ideas? What do we think?
Yeah.
And then we can kind of like hit back, hey, I saw this stat, or hey, take a look at this article. Tell me what you think. Maybe this is something we can riff off of. And then we also try to look for that frictionless piece too. Is there a guest that we could bring on that would help with this? Or are there people in our communities where we could send out a video ask? We used a video ask platform to send out requests from our community to get their voices onto the podcast. So we'll put out a question, be like, hey, what are you struggling with right now? And then we'll get some answers from that. And that will give us content from our audience that we can now put to the podcast that we can actually react to, which ends up being great content. Now we have to think about, we can't just be like jibber jab. We got to have takeaways. We have to have structure. But this is one of the reasons why our next move is to get a producer
I love it.
to be on the show, because because then we'll have a little bit more structure and someone focused on coming to us with pitch ideas and statistics and great guests and things of that nature.
Absolutely.
I bet you a quarter of the producer's not going to be as good as us as coming out with ideas.
Well, if you start from that point, James,
I love it.
I'm just saying we're
let's let
dope.
them
at
prove.
what we
Let's
do,
let them
man.
prove themselves. Let's see.
I'm just saying we're dope at it. That's all I'm saying.
Hey,
We're dope.
it's always challenged to hand certain things off. That is for sure. When we first got our first video editor, I was like so reluctant because I was doing all the editing, but it got to the point where I was burned out. I was like, man, I cannot take on, because I was not just doing our content, but I was doing our clients' content too. So I was like,
that's a lot.
dude, I cannot keep doing this. But then when it was time to hand it out, I was like, I don't really want to hand it out either because I don't know if they're gonna do it that good, right? But it's part of the process, and you gotta.
Totally.
It's an investment. It's not just gonna be money, but it's gonna be part of your time teaching them
Right.
and sharing what's in your head so they can produce it the right way. And I know my brother has something to say here, and we're close on time, but I just wanna make a quick remark, kind of tie a few ideas that I've had in my head actually since we started talking. I just saw a video of this guy. He was the first YouTube liaison, I think it's called the YouTube creator liaison, something like that. And he talked to hundreds of creators, and he noticed that the average lifespan of a creator is between 5 and 7 years. Right. And I found that very interesting because, today we've talked about consistency, creating, right? Like that the purpose. And I saw another video a long time ago that the guy was saying, hey, when everything changed for me is when I was creating from an intrinsic place, right? What is the content that I want to create? Like, what excites me? What is that thing that I want to share with the world, regardless of what people are telling me on the outside? And, I feel like if we match those two, why is the lifespan of creators 5 to 7 years? I think it's because a lot of them are just created extrinsically, right? Like, oh, cool. Like, how can I create to appeal to a certain crowd or group of people? When instead is, how do I create something that I'm going to love, that I'm going to be inspired for, that is going to attract the people, that is just going to keep feeding me that motivation to keep creating, right? So I just wanted to put those points in there because I see that in you guys. I see the two of you enjoying the process. I mean, Mario has been a creator for he kicked that 5 to 7 year stat to the curb. Yep. But I find that amazing, and I can tell, right? I mean, from your podcast and now from having our conversation together, that you guys are freaking enjoying this process, right? Like the banter between the two of you, all these things you're creating intrinsically. And I think you guys are bringing an aspect of community as well to it, which is absolutely amazing.
Guys, we have a hashtag on the show called choke the mic. So Fonzie, just choke the mic. I've been like putting it here like 10 minutes ago. We should wrap up the show. Just saying. Just to wrap up, right? Like as we end the show, this has been so fun and so entertaining, right? We could potentially do that 24-hour marathon that we talked offline.
Hey, we're gonna leave it on the table right there.
We talked about containers, right? On like what to do, what to say, like how do you like actually plan all these things. But the last question of the show, probably our favorite ones, right? Like, where will you be if you did not publish?
He'll be sitting right there doing what he does all the time. I've seen him too many times in that spot right there, doing his thing.
But where would I be if I didn't publish?
If you did not publish.
Didn't publish.
The podcast, you mean?
Just like creating throughout his life,
In general,
Yeah, what if you wouldn't get a mic, start public speaking?
I'd be, and no disrespect, but I'd be working in some 9 to 5, hating my damn life, pissed off, living for the weekends. Just put me in a casket already.
Damn.
If I didn't hit publish, the inside of me would be, if you're being straight up honest, right? Like the inside would be in such turmoil that I didn't figure it out, that I didn't do it. And there would be so much regret that it would start to manifest in other negative energy. And then I would always have something to blame. I would always have somebody else's was the problem, or the reason why I wasn't able to ever pop or do my thing was because of some other reason. It would always be something else. Yeah. And so really what it would be a lot of suffering.
That's powerful. What about you, James?
Well, it's a little different for me because, as Mario said earlier, like this is new for me. So like I have my foundation and I have a new startup that I'm launching, which, we got some amazing news coming down the pike about that. I would be doing that stuff. I'll be writing another book and building my community. Yeah. But, I'm thankful to be doing this creator work. And we were intentional about making sure we did it in a way where it made sense. Like we were, the days of build it and they will come, those days are gone. Like we don't have time. He's too busy. I'm too busy. We too grown and sexy for that. We ain't got time for that. We're just saying.
I really just think that ultimately that's a great question, because that's the one that can really kick people into action. And, the thing is, like, when you aren't doing what you feel you should be doing, there is friction. You can try to avoid it. You can try to deny it.
Yeah.
you can try to act like it's not there, but you know damn well what would really be driving you, but you're afraid. Oh man, I got these bills, I got this quality of life, or I got these obligations. Stop telling me those things. Tell me how we're going to try to get to. What if you did something on the part-time side? What if you did a project? What if you what if you found a mentor? What if, you know what I mean? Like there's so many answers now to that. It's really all within you. So the question really comes down to, well, how much suffering are you willing to do? Are you willing to suffer until you make the change, or are you willing to try to, like, you know, go do it and try to defeat the suffering that you're in?
I love it. If you're listening right now, thank you guys so much for hanging out. And I think I froze maybe in the video.
Oh, they just hopped out. Oh, and I can't hear your audio's out.
I just muted myself. I just muted myself.
Oh no, it dropped us out completely. Well, guys, can you hear us?
We're running the Biz Bros.
We're running the Biz Bros podcast. So yo, I'm Luis.
Taking this off, and I'm Luis.
I'm Luis.
Oh man,
I'm Luis and Luis right now.
We lost the signal over here, guys. But we got James and Mario still on screen, and they are crushing it. They just took over the podcast.
I speak a little Spanish, but I don't know.
You speak a little Spanish, a little bit.
Yeah, where is Luis? So good. You see us taking over the show? You took over the show. Did you see that?
Well, I love it. Yeah. We could still see you guys and hear you. You guys absolutely crush it.
I don't know.
I was expecting a bit of salsa dancing and whatnot, but we know you guys are part of the crew and the family because you guys just took over this thing, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
I love it.
Guys, with that said, thank you so much for tuning into the Content Profit Podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite platforms and on social media at BizBrosCo.
That is right. And if James and Mario here help you move one step closer towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review. See ya.
Bye, guys.
Let's go.